live on this page every Monday. So you can also watch another live stream that I did on my Facebook page, which is also called Marianne Hanson Counselling Service, where I was talking about 7 rules for working with couples, and that's because I'm also a couples counsellor. But what I want to talk about today on this page is common family dynamics and how to navigate them. And the reason this has come up is because one of my clients recently, we were talking about just this idea of like how to function in a family, especially when there are certain roles and there are certain dynamics that make it hard for you to function in the way that you would like to. And this has come up for many years because when I used to work with children, I've worked at Barnardo's as a children's counsellor, but I also, when I started in private practice, I was working with children under the age of 10. I was working with some 12-year-olds, and what was difficult is you would do the work with the child, but then they have to go back into that family and that family dynamic, so it's really hard for things to change, because sometimes you would talk to the parents on the phone, or you would do like a joint session with the child and the parent, and you'd realise it's actually the parent that's part of the issue, but they're not the ones that are coming for counselling. So it was just difficult. So these are 5 common dynamics. I think there's 6, maybe 5 or 6. The first one is scapegoating. So we've all probably either heard of this, or maybe this has been something you've experienced in your family. And this is where you select one person in the family and you blame them for everything negative. This doesn't just happen in families. Scapegoating is a common technique that can happen in work situations. You can target one colleague and say that this is the reason this company is failing, it's because of them. They're the challenging person at work, or they're the ones that are always disrupting things. But in a family, it happens because it's easier then for all of the rest of the family to then put the blame onto that person rather than looking at themselves, rather than looking at the problem. And it sometimes occurs out of fear, because maybe the issue is something that no one wants to address. Maybe it's just easier to scapegoat someone because it's kind of like they're going to take it. We'll choose the most vulnerable person, or we'll choose the person who is not going to, there's no backlash associated with it. So if you've been a victim of scapegoating, the thing that you can do is, first of all, you can either call it out, but not in an aggressive way, but you might say, I've noticed that I'm always getting the blame for things in this family, and I'm just wondering why that happens. Or you can become aware of it yourself, and if it's not safe enough to voice it, it's what you then decide to do. So you might take yourself out of those situations. So it could be that you start to plan how you're going to move away from this family so that they can't pinpoint you and scapegoat you. Or you might choose to limit your time with the family, or not get involved in certain family discussions or decisions, so that you become less and less connected with that family so that they can't scapegoat you. So that's just one few options. The second thing is competitiveness in families. So this happens where the families, instead of pulling together and supporting each other, they compete against each other. So it could be one-upping, someone in the family has done something which is a massive achievement, and the competitive people in the family will minimize the success, or they'll say, well, I did this, why are you talking about that? Now this can occur in families because usually there is a threat to the norm. So when one person in that family starts to rise up and starts to do certain things, the rest of the family can start to feel insecure about that. So what they'll do instead is say, well, it's no big deal that you did this, or why are you talking about that for? So I know that in my family we have lots of different WhatsApp groups. And I remember years ago when the first WhatsApp group, because we're a big family, we're talking, hi Caitlin, thanks for joining, 9 siblings, and then at least 18 nieces, nephews, then you've got cousins, you've got loads of people. It was a big group at one point, and I remember it was too much for me. It was the notifications kept coming, and then it was like there was a lot of competitiveness. I felt there was it wasn't in the right way, but over the years, because there's been different groups developed, different WhatsApp family groups, I've joined a few of them, and I'm not joined a few others. And what I found is that as long as you are playing your role in terms of you're not getting involved in the competitiveness, and this is the solution part, Be aware of when it's happening. So if one sister or one brother is saying, well, my child did this, or well, I did this, or I want this to happen, or this is happening, be aware of it when it's occurring, but do not get in the middle of it or don't get involved with it. Just keep just keep your space and keep to what you want to do. And then usually they have to either find another person to be competitive with, or it just dissipates itself. Just don't become part of it. It's like an argument. An argument can't happen if one person is just not getting involved. They can argue with themselves. So the other thing you can do as well is to suggest another way of doing things. So it might be to say, you know, I'm really tired that we're not working together as a family, that we're always competing. Our family could be really strong if we decided that we were going to team up with each other. Or what if we operate in this way? This is something with my family that I feel that has made a really big difference. If you are the person, if you want the thing that you want to see in others, if you become that thing and then you show up as that, so your energy changes, instead of you telling the other person what they need to do, it sort of becomes automatic. So when I've had difficulties, that's why I'm doing this like family dynamic stuff with certain members of my family, instead of coming at it from an attacking point of view, instead of, oh, I'm not going to speak to her again, or she did this, or he did this, or why do they always do this? I came at it from a point of view, if I change my energy and I show that I'm a loving, kind sister or brother, a sister, I can't be a brother, or I'm this type of auntie, or if I'm this type of daughter, then all they're going to see or reciprocate is that's the energy they're coming with. So it's harder then to battle against that. So the third thing that can happen in some families, this is a difficult dynamic, is drama and chaos. I've been friends with people where their family is, the friend that I'm friends with is fine, but their sibling is a nightmare. And the worst part is then when you're going out with that friend, you know when their sibling is coming, something's going to happen. It can be that you're at a restaurant and they're shouting at the waiters and things and just getting ignorant with that. It can be that they just have always negative things to say. But if you're in a situation with families where their drama is more comfortable than peace, then you're going to get those family members that just always upset the apple cart. What's it called? Upset the apple cart. Because when things are going smoothly and harmonious at the family get-together, the barbecue, the party, things are just flowing, that person will cause an issue. Maybe they'll get drunk and fall all over the place. Maybe they'll start screaming at someone. So all you can really do is you have to first of all identify that this person prefers drama and chaos. So once the family starts to change and becomes a more settled family, this family member can't do it. They just can't do it because they don't know what to do. They don't know where they fit in this family when it's normal and it's peaceful. All they know is when it's drama and chaos. So it's about recognizing that and identifying that, and then you can make a decision. Your decision can either be to talk to that family member and have a heart-to-heart conversation and say, I know that our family used to be where we were fighting all the time. We used to be a chaotic family, but we're now this, look how far we've come. This is who we are. How does this feel? Or wouldn't it be better if we all was on the same page with this? That's one option. The other option is just to allow that person to continue in the chaotic, dramatic style of doing things while the rest of the family moves forward, and hopefully they'll come on board when they're ready to. If they choose not to, then that's up to them. You can't make a family member. As I've said with this particular friend that I was friends with, up to this day, I know the fact that their sibling is still like that. I went to the birthday party of my friend's 1-year-old, and their sibling was there, but they were ignoring everyone at the party. They were sat on a chair with a book. This is at their own niece's birthday party, with a book, reading a book in the corner and ignoring every single person at the party. Now that to me doesn't even make sense, but to them it made sense. That's why you can't drag people towards something. You just have to allow them to come at their own pace. So the fourth thing that comes up, so we talked about scapegoating, competitiveness, drama and chaos. And the next one is roles and labels. So this is where either specific people in the family, this causes a massive dynamic. Either specific people have specific roles in the family, either that they've chosen, so they've chose to be the controlling one, they've chose to be the leader, they've chose to be the baby of the family, or those labels have been given to them and they can't shake the labels off. Either way, if someone is assigned a role, so you're the eldest, so you're the one that takes care of all the younger ones, or you're the responsible one, so I'm going to give you more responsibility, or you're the this one or that one. Whether it's the real one thing I realised is whether it's family or friends, it doesn't matter. They aren't positive, then don't have them in your life. To some degree, that's true, but I think for some people, cutting their family off completely, especially if they don't have any other connections with people, is really tough. I think limiting the contact with your family is probably more of a compromise, so that you don't spend as much time around those people, but they're still in your life, or trying to change the dynamic sometimes works. So yeah, the roles and the labels part is a hard one, because I think it's easier when you've chosen to be that role or that person. But when people have put that role on you, whether you want it or not, or that label, that's more harder. And I think what happens then is that you're in a situation where you have lots of people who are playing a role in the family, but then when it's time for someone else to take on that role, they're not ready to move out the way to allow that to happen. But also some roles can be very manipulative and very disruptive, or destructive, I should say. So if someone is always taking control in a family, or if someone always has to play, I think it's called the main character syndrome, where anytime you're at an event or anytime there's a decision to be made, this person has to step up, has to have the most say on it, has to have the most opinions, and everyone goes with what they say. That can be a massive problem, because then no matter what that person is saying, even if it's not the best idea, people will go with them just because of where they are in the family. Now, this has happened in my family in the past. It doesn't happen now because I think we've sorted that out. But there have been louder members and people in the family who, if they're not in control, then they will disrupt things for everyone else. So all you have to do in that situation is that it's not confront the person head on. It's go to the top of the family, who's in the head of the family, and speak to them. Because the head of the family, whether it's the mum, the dad, or the mum and the dad, whether it doesn't matter if you're a single parent household or if you're a joint parent household, if the people at the top of the family do not have an ethos or have principles, or they don't set how this family is going to operate, that's when the dynamics become like deadly. Because all the siblings and all the people get involved and they all do their own thing. But if we know what's expected from the people at the top, if you know that your dad expects this from everyone in the family, or your mum expects this, then you operate in a different way, because that's when the mum and dad comes in and they step up and they say, we're not tolerating this, that's not what our family does. Hi Amos, thanks for joining. So the next thing that can cause the issue is control. And control usually comes from survival. So when one person is trying to control either the narrative of the family, so they're saying, don't go to see the counsellor because we keep things in our family, we don't do that. Or don't tell this secret that, there's been abuse going on, or there's been this going on, or that sort of thing. It's coming from a place of wanting to put across or present to the world that you have this wonderful family. It happens a lot it can happen in, I'm not going to just judge that it happens in religious families, it can happen in prominent families where there's a lot of wealth, where there's a lot of status, where it's a family that's known. I'm saying religion because it can happen in religious families, because of the fact that if you're married to a pastor and you're children of a pastor, and the church, the whole congregation knows you as being this loving, kind person, you might be doing other things outside of the church. But then if you as a family member are speaking out about this, oh, my dad isn't as wonderful as you think, or my mum isn't who you think because I live with them, no one wants to hear it. There was a lady who, is she from, it's not Zimbabwe, is it Congo? She's from an African country, it might be Rwanda, I can't remember where it is, but she was on TikTok, and she's Cameroon. She was telling the people of Cameroon not to vote for her dad as president again because she was telling them what he's like. And she got a lot of backlash. I mean, there were people on Facebook were saying, how dare she disrespect her dad, and da 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 da. I mean, I've got mixed views because I think, whilst I respect what she's doing, I could say that, you know, most people are going to just be like, that, you know, that's your dad and whatever it is. But she's saying to the people of Cameroon, she's trying to say, I'm trying to save you from putting another person in power who, you know what they've already done. You've seen it all for yourself. But I'm also saying this as his own daughter. I'm not backing him either. But people were still not wanting to listen to that. So this whole control thing comes from a sense of, if someone has enough power within their family, and if someone feels that they don't want the outside world to see what they're really like, they can control the family in a particular way. They can do it by saying, we're trying to protect you. You know, we don't need outsiders to come in and say this or to change things. They can use it to influence other people. You know, if you live in Botswana, oh, thanks Amos for joining. Yeah, and I can see that someone else has joined, but I can't see your name because I think it's written in Arabic. So yeah, control is a big thing, a big dynamic. So all you can do in that situation is you can make a choice whether you want to have an exit plan, so you can leave that family dynamic altogether, or if you're not able to do that, it's about slowly limiting your amount of time around that person. It's not confronting the person, because if you're involved with a controlling person within a family dynamic, it could lead to, you know, a dangerous situation. You might be putting yourself in danger, in harm's way. So that's not usually the solution to confront. It's about working to put a plan together so that you can slowly release some of that control that that person has over you. So the final thing is poor communication or aggressive communication. This is a dynamic in any family which is only ever going to cause issues. If your family can't learn to talk to each other without screaming, shouting at each other, without being aggressive, verbal insults, even physical sometimes, then that's like a dynamic that has to change because it's not sustainable. And I've, you know, considered becoming a family therapist, but that's one of the reasons I just thought no, because I already do couples, and that can be tough when you've got two couples in front of you arguing. I do individuals, and you're dealing with lots of emotion there. I can't imagine having 5 or 6 people who are all going at it with each other. You have to really be tuned in, and you have to be specialised. But when you're in a dynamic where that's the norm, aggressive, shouting. I know when we were growing up in my family, we come from a family. Thank you. Yeah, we come from a family where there was African father, Jamaican mother, and they both come from cultures where it is not about showing like weakness in any. Well, they call weakness. For a good example would be, I've only saw my mum cry once in my life, and that was at my dad's funeral when we went to Ghana once. And my mum is in the 70s. I just never saw it. And the thing is, if we were having arguments in our family and someone cried, then people would laugh at the person crying, and then it would just be like, deal with yourself, you know, deal with your tears yourself. There was no hugs and things. It's changed now because like my siblings have had children and they've had to learn that it's okay to hug, it's okay to comfort someone, and they would never laugh at their like child crying. But when we were growing up, it was like, you know, each person for themselves type thing. But it kind of what I'm trying to say, what I'm saying about that is because sometimes the dynamic in a household is so ingrained that you as a one person can't change it. So the shouting and the verbal insults in most families would be seen as that's what we do. It's banter. You know, we call someone gay, we say, oh, stop being a, I've heard this, like when I used to live somewhere, one of my neighbours kept calling their 5-year-old, you know, stop being a gay, or he was calling him, stop being a puff, you know, stop being, grow up, man up. And this was screaming at a 5-year-old, you know. These are some families that you're part of, and if you were to walk into that family and you were to say, why don't you be kind, they'd laugh at you. Why don't you give that one a hug, you know, who's hugging? No one's hugging no one here. Hugs are for girls, you know, or this sort of thing. So you're dealing with generation and generation of beliefs. So what you have to do is, instead of trying to like bring sense into this, common sense into it, you may have to step back and say that I'm going to be the person who's no longer shouting and screaming. As we said earlier, you're not going to be part of that chaos. I'm stepping back from it. You know, if my parent is screaming and shouting at me, or if my sibling is being verbally abusive, I'm going to walk away. If you can't leave the household, because you might not be at the age where you can, or you might not be in the position financially where you can, you just need to create your little cave somewhere. And then when you're ready, you can leave. But yeah, these dynamics are really strong because, as I've said, if there's not a strong leader in place, and that's as the parent who isn't stepping up and saying, do you know what, this is not how my family's going to operate, this is what needs to happen, then it's just chaos. It can be like quite chaotic. It can be quite scary as well, because if you've got loads of siblings and everyone is just doing whatever they want to do, and you know, maybe people are in households where they're picking up knives and threatening each other. I've worked as a social worker where I've not even felt safe going into some of those households, you know, where I've kind of thought, this is a bit much, this is, you know, and I'm observing these people to see if they can continue to be parents. When I was doing parenting assessments, I'm having to observe for a few hours and I'm thinking, whoa, this is not right. These are the households people are living in. So I think the dynamics, what you have to think about is where they've come from, how they've you know, shown themselves. It's not always about tackling them. You can't maybe tackle the chaos within the family. You can't tackle sometimes the competitiveness. You can do something about the roles that are placed on you. I think you can do a bit about that. You might not always be able to tackle the control element or the communication, but you can make a choice of whether you're going to be a part of it or not. So I hope you found this video useful. Thank you everyone for joining. I really appreciate it. You know, especially all the people that are joining from abroad, I really appreciate it. If you want to find out more about the work that I do, you can check out my description on here, or you can go to my Facebook page, which is also called Marianne Hanson Counselling Service. There's a different video on there about couples counselling, but you can also find out how to contact me. Thanks for joining, and I'll see you all soon. Have a great week. Bye.